401k advisors want to build a scalable practice, but aren't always sure what to do next. Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast designed to help advisors think, make decisions, and cast a vision to create a business for the future. Here's your host, Ross Marino, financial planner, author, speaker, and CEO of Advisor 2X.
Welcome to the Outcome Show. Today, I am joined by Michael Kane, Managing Director of Plan Sponsor Consultants, a division of Hub International, and President Emeritus of the National Retirement Advisor Council. And I'm not going to go through your endless list of awards that I think you have. Most people listening should know who you are. Great practice. You've done a lot of great work out there. You had awards for years. I'm really excited to have you on the show. So thanks for being part of it, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Ross.
When we first jumped on, one of the first things you said was, our pipeline is looking really good. Not everybody says that when I first start talking to them. So can you talk about the different ways you've developed business recently?
Yeah, the pipeline, a lot of it is from digital marketing, but there's also most recently a nice referral from an accounting firm that we spent a lot of time cultivating retirement accounting firms that do retirement plan audits several years ago. And probably spent 2 years cultivating about 20 of these firms. So it's nice to, never know when you're going to get one, but, this is a nice one to get. Also, last quarter, we joined Hub International. So we're a division of Hub International now, like a lot of other firms that are making the moves in the mergers and acquisitions area. So we've got a pipeline from that. We've got a pipeline from some referrals from our clients. We've got a pipeline from digital marketing and, from a CPA referral most recently.
I know that you started digital marketing back in 2009, which really caught my attention. Today, it's 2021. I get it. We do digital marketing. We all get it. That was 12 years ago. See how I did math on the spot there?
So yeah, that was great.
I did. I paused for a second.
That was great.
Yeah, I had to get it right because it'd be kind of embarrassing. We don't edit, but 12 years. So I've got that part right. But 2009, you actually started digital marketing. Not a lot of people were doing it back then. Can you take us through what led up to that and that point where you said, you know what, I think we have to do digital with our practice?
Yeah. Well, 2009, I happened to attend at that time, Great West, now our Empower Retirement conference in the Napa Valley. And at that conference, there was a guy from DC. His name escapes me. Went to Boston College. You probably know the name. And he was talking about marketing in a wired world. So there was a gal at that conference who was from Ridgeworth. No longer are there Ridgeworth friends. That was part of SunTrust. She was a national sales manager. And we had the conference ended on a Friday at noon Pacific time. And we had lunch together along with the author of this book, Marketing in a Wired World, and picked his brain, for an hour and a half or so. And then we had a red eye back to Atlanta. So late Saturday night, early Sunday morning from San Francisco. And I said, I'm going to read this book on the airplane. You read it. And last hour, let's compare notes and highlights because we both had our magic, the magic markers and stuff. And so when I got off the plane, I had a lot of highlights. And so I called my daughter and I said, who works with me, has been working with me. And I said, I'm bringing this by your house and I want you to read the highlights. And on Monday morning, we're going to discuss this. And really, it was primarily about getting on LinkedIn, joining groups, how to do it. So we started that way. And one of the first, and this is really elementary, is after I got in certain groups, I started going in groups and entering discussions and posing questions to those groups, like say CFO group, for example, or attorneys and accountants group, things like that. And in the hopes of stimulating some conversation and following up with those people and maybe beginning a communication or conversation with them. So that was kind of the beginning of it. And then we started doing a radio show back in that time with a guy that we met in California at an NRP conference, National Retirement Partners, just as it was being acquired about to be acquired by LPL. So at that conference, we started doing some work on the radio. Had our own radio show here in Atlanta, and had attorneys and accountants and that kind of thing on interviewing that we were doing. But we also was approached by a guy from up in your area, North Carolina, who was talking about digital marketing and how to send out emails and had a fabulous list and this kind of thing. So we began to foray into sending out emails with valuable content, okay, for retirement plan sponsors, right around 2010, 2011 timeframe. And so we developed that list, and over the years we integrated eight different lists. Data mining, formulate, got it into one, put it into Salesforce as a CRM. And, LPL, our firm, requires constant contact. There's other firms that permit you to use other things, but again, you have to journal the email that you send out. So over the years, we've developed a list of 7,466 retirement plans. And I think at one point it might have been as big as 10,000. But because they're getting this valuable content, I'll talk about that in just a minute, because it has to be valuable. Otherwise, they unsubscribe. So we have a very low unsubscribe rate, which according to the experts indicates that there's a very high element of trust. So if people are getting stuff from you and they're not unsubscribing, then that means there's an element of trust. They like the stuff they're getting. So we used to originally like to follow open rates, but no longer do we really care about open rates. We could care about click rates. And so we want to see how long people click, and where they go, because all these lead to our website. Okay. And for the longest period of time, we were doing what was called banner marketing or really targeting. So what would happen is if you got driven to our website somehow, you would find us following you around for the next 60 days with banner ads anytime you use your browser. So we all have seen this kind of stuff from, wherever you shop, whether it's Home Depot, if it's Macy's, if it's Brooks Brothers, it doesn't matter. You go to that website, they're going to follow you around. And originally when I first saw it, okay, was from Rebecca Hourahan at 401k Marketing. And that's who we use for our valuable content, for the past 6 or 7 years. And before that, we had some other vendors that we used. Anyway, long story short is that retargeting, as it's called, helps generate and drive business to your website repeatedly. And that's what you want to be able to do. And in the Google Analytics, you're looking at where they're coming from, how long they're staying on a website, what pages they're clicking, and this and that and the other thing. Now, the benefit of having a digital marketing is you can look at the emails that are going out, and you can look at which ones people click. Okay. So if I'm sending to Ross Marino and you've been repeatedly clicking, I can go back and look at the data. Then if I call you at some point, I can say, or send you a follow-up email, I can say, Ross, appreciate you opening up our valuable content for retirement plan sponsors, and notice that, in the past couple months, you've looked at cybersecurity, financial wellness, and whatever else, fiduciary liability issues. So now I've got something specific, not just, hey, we sent you an email, hey, what'd you think? So that helps too. So we follow up with these emails. If we look at over a period of, say, a quarter, and if we have repeat clicks, they get a second email. Okay, so our emails for the past year, our open rate, okay, so you got 7,500 going out. The open rate is running around 14%. The click rate's around 13%. And at that click rate, we look at a period of time, whoever's clicked, they get a second email from us And we have a 97% open and 96% click on that. So it's very high.
Hold on a second. That is some of the most impressive numbers I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So actually I got
Well,
two questions before we get to the click rate, because I want to ask a little deeper on that. There's way more than 7,500 401ks out there, but you have your list started maybe around 10,000. What was your criteria and how did you cultivate that list?
by specific states where we have offices. Okay, so if you want to think about our debit, our footprint, where we have the most plans is where we have offices. So, Michigan and Alabama and Georgia and Virginia and Maryland and the DC area. So that's where they're coming from. Okay.
Has the connection with Hub changed that because now you're potentially getting referrals from other areas? Is it still office or did you expand?
Yeah, we're going to have to increase the footprint in a couple other states that we utilized. Okay, that are part of basically part of our kind of territory with Hub. Okay, so yeah, and what's interesting is Hub itself has a list of all their prospects and suspects. They've got about 1 million commercial clients, suspects, if you will, and there's lots of good data information on this. But what we did when we first joined was take our list, kind of superimpose it on the list in our area to see if we have any hits, and we did. And then from that, using another software system, and they may be familiar with Extreme Larkspur, we were able to go in and identify certain fiduciary issues on those plans that we got hits on. For example, maybe the fees were higher than the benchmark. They had excessive contribution issues, which would indicate they could be a prospect for auto enrollment or non-qualified plans or something like that. So you get, let's say, 3 or 4 data points that you can now write to one of the Hub producers and say, hey, we're the new guys on the block, and we're retirement plan specialists, and we've access to this great software that looks at government data, and we noticed that you had this client or the suspect, and we want to bring to your attention there's 3 or 4 fiduciary vulnerabilities that we've identified, and we'd like to chat with you about it. So, which makes a lot of difference because we're basically in a region called Gulf South, and there's 4 or 5 states involved in it. And I could get in my car, we could get in our cars, and all drive around and go to all the Hub offices, and like we would with an accountant or a CPA, and hey, let's go to lunch and tell you about what we do, and aren't we really cool? And it'd send us some referrals. But that's physically impossible at this point. So what we're able to do is go in there with specific stuff about their plans, and be able to provide a value added to them. That's what they're looking for.
So would you say part of the pandemic, how it's limited the in-person, has maybe opened more doors for you because now you have to focus on specific reasons to connect with someone and get a referral?
Yeah, it has really improved our pipeline considerably. Really improved the pipeline. So we've really taken this time and kind of the physical restrictions of the pandemic to really boost the time that we're spending on digital marketing. So when we got involved over a year and a half ago, with our Extreme Larkspur project, spent a lot of time getting stuff approved through LPL and all that. And, one of the things that we learned from, lots of different sources in terms of digital marketing is that people are, you got to have that element of trust, which we've established over a period of time of sending these emails out. You got to have valuable content. That's the first thing. If you don't have that, it's not even worth, not even worth doing, because people look for that. They look for you as, in effect, what they're saying is, by opening this repeatedly, we trust you as a resource to us for our retirement plan. Okay. Now, how do we get that and move that from, that's real nice, let's talk about, specifically about it and how we can help you, and do you have an advisor, and all those kind of good conversations.
Yeah.
So, but what Extrema has done is it basically provided a whole other kind of database for us, and and what we're trying to identify in one database at 7,500 was retirement plans that had 10 million or above in assets way back 5, 6, 7, 8, depends on the time frame, years ago. So a lot of those are probably sitting at 20, 25 million now. So that's one database, and Extrema is different. We go in there and can hunt and pick and stuff like that, and they provide us a whole list. But we take the Extrema emails, they go into the other database, so they're getting constantly pinged on once a month too. Okay, but we can also tell, we can watch and see when people are opening these things in our Extrema case in real time. Like this morning, I had 6 ping me, and I get a notice on my cell phone. I get a notice in my email, and if I had the time, what they say is there's a Harvard study on this. Within 5 minutes of that ping, you ought to jump on the phone and call them. Okay. But unfortunately, you don't have their direct dials in many cases or their cell phone. That'd be perfect. That's a perfect world.
We're not in the perfect world. So let's go back
Yeah.
to that second click, because it's so impressive that you're getting almost 100% response from that second email. Is there anything you're doing specifically with that email? And is it the follow-up phone call that happens? Or what else goes on there?
Well, what you're doing then is, if you got someone who's repeatedly clicking, it gets into that group where they're going to get the second email. Okay. When you send that second email, that is the follow-up list. That is who you need to call. And you need to pick up the phone, and you just need to say, hey, how you doing? I'm Mike Kane. We've been sending you valuable content and emails. And as a matter of fact, we're impressed that the past couple months you opened these 3, and wondered how you what you think about it, what you think about that. And then at the end of the, kind of the conversation's moving along, or it depends on what's happened. The next thing you're doing is asking either for a physical appointment. Hey, I'd like to come by and drop in, and so you can put a face with a name, or can we set up a time where we could do a Zoom meeting, that we think would really be worth your while to talk about not only what we do, but ways that we might be able to improve your retirement plan and maybe save money at the same time. So that's all it is. It's kind of low key. And if they say, nah, go away, that type of thing, that's fine. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. But understand, if you have someone who's been opening your emails, as an example, for 2 years, not everyone maybe, or clicking on everyone, but let's say they've done 6 or 7 or 8 over that period of time on different topics. They may, if someone picked up the phone and called them, like a lead generation company, and said, hey, I want to introduce so-and-so, are you happy with your advisor? The answer is going to be, yeah, we're happy with the advisor. So what we're seeing is people that are disturbed or interested in certain topics. Then you say to yourself, well, why are they interested in that topic? Why are they open? Why did they click on this one versus another one? And it's telling you there's an interest in these topics. It enables you really to have very detailed research on these people, to be able at least to have a lot more going for you on a telephone call than you would ever have anywhere else.
So, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I'll also say there's nothing against lead generation outfits. And there's a lot of them, as we know, that all center around Fort Worth or Palm Beach, Florida. But there's others, and beginning in 2009, we started using acceleration retirement. And Jane used to handle Law Fidelity's direct appointments for the representatives. And then they basically, they sold that off, and she started her own, and it's very effective. But today, I think, lead generation by phone is extremely difficult. So I would strongly advocate that folks or teams, really start getting into sending out emails and valuable content. You can start with database, here and there, and then try and improve it as you're going along. And everybody you're talking to, get their email and get it in there. And we keep it up. For example, usually around January, a lot of people retire at the end of the year. So the cool thing about it is when they retire, they go, "Hi, I'm no longer with XYZ company. I finally retired. I'm looking forward to my time in the sun," something like that. But then it'll say, "My replacement as CFO is Ross Marino. Here's his telephone number," which happens to be his direct dial, "and here's his email." And it's like, oh my God, this is so cool. But they do that. They do that. So we're getting we're updating that database. Each time we send out an email, okay, we get certain people that, very few unsubscribe, but there are different times in the year. Usually at the beginning of the year, especially, people retire in December, and there's some that mid-year will retire like June. But very few are in the middle of the year. Most of them, I would say at the beginning of this year, we probably had 32 to 35 that had retired. And then you also get the people that leave throughout the year. So let's say you got an HR director and he or she goes somewhere else. They're going to also put in there, "I'm no longer at XYZ company, so-and-so, please contact, Jane Doe, who's my replacement at." And they gave you all the data. So you update it and take the other one out of the database.
So how about HubSpot? I know you're using that. How do you use that? What do you think about it?
Well, HubSpot was an example of, I think, where we want to be. That's utopia. HubSpot is a fabulous stock that's a couple of guys from MIT got involved in developing that while they were in college. And I think that stock, is ramping up towards $300 a share, but it's been on a real upward trajectory. Anyway, what they do is, the whole idea behind the marketing is to begin with, pushing out valuable content and to be able to develop all these cool ways to identify who's a prospect for what stuff by what they send out. So to me, what you're trying to do is drive people to your website, see how much time they spend on it, and then basically personalize that kind of engagement with them. So our emails, to me, are kind of like what HubSpot's doing, is that when people open up and spend time clicking on certain emails that you've sent out, or blogs, or whatever it is, then you can identify what things that's of interest to them. So I think that's I think that's the future. And I think HubSpot is a beautiful metaphor for what we're trying to do. We're not as smart as those guys, but, in our own way, through, hit and miss and saying, here's where we want to go. How can we figure out ways to do it? So over the years, we've developed 14 different vendors that helped us, and we'll replace vendors as we find a better one, or if somebody represents they can do this or that or the other thing, and then we find out that's not the case, and you don't want to go into all the gory details of that, but you just find people that, and we're pleased, and I'm very lucky to have a daughter that's got a good technical background and understands all this stuff, and actually has a husband who does too. So we're able really to screen these vendors and trying to improve on what we're doing to get the objective which is drive people digitally to plan sponsor consultants.
Yeah, and that's great. And HubSpot has a great model, not investment advice, obviously, but they have certainly dialed in and they're doing a good job with it. So
Oh, yeah.
one more question before we do the close. How about financial wellness? You think it's here to stay?
Yes, I really do think it's here to stay. And I really think that, we've got a lot of change in vendors. People get acquired. I mean, it's sort of like the record keeper spot or the advisor spot. There's consolidation, changes, mergers, acquisitions. And I think eventually over the year, there's lots of really good vendors that are out there that, like Financial Finesse and Questus, people like that. There's lots of them. We did a couple of years back, we did a RFP on financial wellness vendors, and it was the top 10 at the time. And I bet 80% of that's changed if we went out and did it again. So yes, I think it's different. I think it makes you different from the folks that you're competing against. And the more studies that you read, whether it's plan sponsor or whoever's sponsoring this, whether it's a mutual fund company, a record keeper, an independent, you find more and more people are looking for ways to improve their life, and financial wellness, of course, along with health wellness, are things that, interest an HR department. And in our case with Hub, the things that are interesting to us are, you've got an employee benefits division, and we got a property and casualty division. And we're kind of the retirement guys. And in P&C, they're interested in risk mitigation. Well, that kind of appeals to CFOs and maybe CEOs too, I'm sure. But improving people's well-being, boy, that's an HR function. The total rewards, and part of total rewards is improving employee well-being. And as we know, if financial stress hits 85% or whatever the number is, high number of people, and we can impact that favorably, we got a lot of touch points.
All right. Final question.
Oh, there's the magic wand.
This is it. Pulled it out. And
I want to get one.
Well, you were smart. You asked where I got it from. So I just assured you, I swiped it from my daughter's. It's straight from Disney. It is certified. Yeah. So good chance it works. If you could wave it, change anything in the world, Michael, what would you change?
I'd like to be like HubSpot. Yeah, but I didn't go to MIT, and I don't have a PhD and all that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, from a very layperson standpoint, we've been working on this, trying to improve it, and we rely on a lot of other people and vendors to help us along the way. And we're very happy about where we are now, but we're always looking to get better.
Michael Kane, thanks so much for being part of the show today.
Yeah, thank you, Ross.
Thank you for listening to Outcomes. Subscribe now to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Advisor 2X. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.